Hey, this is Matt Wimmer from Brody Precision, and in this video we're going to be taking a quick look at some common networking issues that you'll come across in JACEs, but these apply to any networked device, any IP device. So the first error that we'll be talking about is when you see no routes, no route to, and then an IP address, something along those lines. This typically refers to you not having a gateway set or not having the correct gateway set. So IP devices inherently only know how to access other devices that are on the same subnet as them. So if your device is at 192.168.1.50, you only will know how to access the devices that are in your subnet. It's defined by the subnet mask, but it's typically going to be 192.168.1, and any device in that area you'll know how to get to. If you are trying to access an IP address that's outside of that subnet, your IP device, your JACE in this case, needs to know the address of the device that'll forward that information to the right place. And that's what our gateway is. So without the gateway, we don't know how we're going to access the devices outside of our subnet. And a gateway address is typically going to be the LAN address of your router. If you don't know what the router's IP address is, typically this is going to be something like this, where the last octet is going to be a 1. Sometimes you'll see it as a 254. It's typically going to be a 1. And then the common errors that you'll see with this are no routes to, like we talked about earlier, and an inability to access the internet altogether, because obviously the internet isn't on your subnet. So in order to get out to the internet, you've got to have that gateway assigned. The next one, and I feel like this one is even more common than not having a gateway assigned, is the inability to resolve a host name. So IP devices don't know anything about domain names. The only thing that IP devices know about are IP addresses. So in order to give our devices the information that they need in order to get to a domain name, we have to define a DNS server or a DNS resolver. And these are functionally this exact same thing as a phone book, right? You give it a domain name, and then it's going to give you the IP address of that domain name. There are several options that are available out there for DNS servers that you can use. The most common are going to be Google's, which is 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. And Cloudflare's as well, which is 1.1.1.1 and 1.0.0.1. Thankfully, these are both super easy to remember, so you shouldn't have any issue using them in the future. And like I said, these errors will typically be an unable to resolve hostname, and then obviously that error will continue with the domain name that you're trying to access, because it's saying it doesn't know how to get there. And the other issue that you'll see, and this is more of like a functional thing, you won't be able to send out emails or access your weather, because emails, the SMTP server that you're typically trying to connect to is going to be at a domain name, and the weather service information is all coming through a domain name as well. So let's just real quick hop into Niagara, and I'll show you where these settings are. Okay, so I'm in Niagara now, and I just pulled up a JACE. So I went into the TCP/IP configuration in the platform, and you can see our two settings that we're talking about here are going to be our gateway, our IPv4 gateway, and our DNSv4 servers. I feel like a lot of the times these get missed because they are not in our typical interfaces section where we're typically setting an IP address, etc. They show up separately up top. And in my case, I'm just using the gateway 192.168.1.1 because my IP address here on my first interface is 151, and our subnet is .0 here on the last octet. So any IP address that's outside of this .1 whatever, the JACE is now going to know to go to this gateway, and then the gateway is going to know how to get that information to the right place. And then for our DNS servers, I'm just using the Google DNS servers. So you'll put in 1, and then you'll hit the plus sign, and then you'll put in your second. The reason we have 2 of these is just in case one of them goes down for whatever reason, we have a fallback option in place. If you really want to be super safe, you could pull one DNS server from one location, so say Google, and then your other one could be like the Cloudflares, so 1.1.1.1. So hopefully that was helpful and informative for you, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.